Greetings, Kerbonauts. This is Kerbal Space Program. I'm Bob Fitch, and this is episode 42 of Project Odyssey, the episode that will answer the great question of the universe. At the end of the last episode, we had launched a module that was sticking out from the side of the core of the new Kopernicus, and you remember I promised we would dock up 2 more of those. However, those launches and dockings look pretty much the same as the one that you already saw last episode, which you're getting a repeat look at here. So instead of showing that entire process, we're going to fast forward through it to some degree. We continued to shoot for morning launches, and everything went well with all of the latest ones. You'll recall that at the end of the other episode, we decoupled the stack separator that allowed the space tug to shift away from the Kopernicus, and that allowed it to go pick up the new module once we made it to orbit. And with a fairly simple go grab it, bring it back, dock it up, that leaves us here where we can take a look now at 2 modules, 2 modules docked up. But are we done there? No, of course not. There are 3 docking nodes on that core. We need 3 of the exact same one around the outside, so we launched another one. Although I don't have video of every single bit of all of these, so I used a little bit of recap footage there. But then we can go back to the Kopernicus and see that we decoupled the next stack separator and the space tug to bring it out and grab onto the 3rd module. If you're wondering what our mass is up to with the 3 attached, we're about 230 tons now, and we are not done. So there we go. Now we have 3 modules. 3 modules docked. Let's take a look at the VAB. You'll recall that I said we had switched out our boosters. There they are right there. But everything else is the same down below until we scroll our way up here and take a look at that payload. That was it. That's the whole module, and we launched this 3 times. You can see how I had that stack separator in there holding it into the fairing, and that also had the docking port on it so that that could be taken off later after maneuvering it into position. So we'll just take away the fairing here so we can see inside a little bit better. Pull away the booster from down below there and look up at the top. You can see that we have ourselves a little engine up there on a rotor. Those will become useful later for when we're doing some maneuvering. On the 2 sides, we have docking ports that modules are going to go on right there and there. There's also a rotor on this one, just in case I need to switch up how it's oriented. I may need to show you that. We'll see how it goes with the dockings later. Then there are these plates that allow them to be attached, and up on the top, these are integrated tanks for hydrazine as well as RCS jets. There's one pointing in each direction. I just flipped it around and put it on the end here. I welded those together so that we could reduce the part count since there was going to be a bunch of these all around the outside. There's an antenna on here, but I plan to move that through an EVA up to about here. I actually should have just launched it that way, but I wasn't thinking about it, and it is removable by EVA, so I'll just do that. Then on the side here, we have a habitation inflatable module that's going to come out, and that'll probably be a couple bedrooms, and this will be their main chambers where they can work and study their science or whatever they're going to be doing, and that's that whole one big welded part I have. This is also a welded part, again, just to reduce the part count. There's a couple plates there and another one in the middle, and then this crew tube down through the center, and at the bottom then we have our docking port that it was all attached to. Not quite done yet. After those had been docked up, I took that space tug, opened up the antennas on it, and then shifted it over to the front docking port of the Kopernicus. Then Valentina activated the inflatable habitation modules, while Kesla started running the diagnostics and all kinds of scans to check everything and make sure it was okay. They've got a couple buttons, one for inflation and one for turning the lights on. We get all of that set up, all 3 of them. And at this point, Kesla and Valentina can now go inside and enjoy that interior. This is starting to look pretty good, actually. But we're not done yet. We have some more modules to bring up. Alright, now for something entirely different. Well, not really different. It's another module for the Kopernicus. Anyway, we need to bring up some food because so far we have Valentina and Kesla up there living on just the provisions that were in the Hydra capsule. We haven't actually put any food on the station yet, so we're going to do that now, but we're going to do it by bringing up a fully stocked Kopernicus module. This one was a very special construction. This has some of my most advanced construction techniques that I can possibly imagine I could do. In fact, these are the modules, these next 3 that I'm going to launch, these are the modules that caused me to want to switch to having the 7.5 expanded fairings in the first place. At the beginning, I was thinking, oh, I'll just launch up on the 5-meter fairings and all of my modules were going to fit just fine. But then when I realized that these 3 are going to need the 7.5, I revised my whole plan and thought, well, if I'm already going to need the 7.5 for these, then maybe I could consider doing 7.5 for some of the others as well. And that's how some of the other ones got even bigger than they already were. So why is it the most advanced yet? Well, I'm actually going to have to show you in the VAB later why it was so special. For now, we just must continue making our way to orbit while I talk about KSP version 1.0. Or actually, now we've released 1.01 and 1.02. And a question may be, am I going to switch to the latest version of KSP for Project Odyssey? No. There's too much invested in this installation, so this is going to be it until we get to Duna, until we excavate that artifact, and until we get back to our universe or reverse time or however it is that we're going to make things right. So back here in orbit, we have rendezvoused with the Kopernicus and we can release our payload. Once again, the payload is just going to go free floating off by itself while the space tug undocks and heads over here to pick it up. Now this one, you're starting to get an idea of how it is that I said it was special. The construction of this module and the next 2 that will come after this are very similar, but they'll all serve different functions. The one we're looking at now is the life support systems. We also have a science module to bring up, and a secondary command center with communications and external storage support. Now this one is going to be a tricky docking. You can see that I have a stack separator attached to the side of the module because the way that this works is it has these angled crew sections, each with a docking port on it, and it's going to dock to 2 different ports at exactly the same time. Now if we look over at the Kopernicus, of the 3 modules that are sticking out, we're going to go in and insert this between 2 of them. We'll dock the one end that's directly opposite where our space tug is right now, and the other side will either automatically dock just because it's in the right place, or we can give it a little rotation or maybe a bit of a shake with the space tug. Since we have a nice gyroscope on there, we could do that. And that will most likely force that second docking node into the right place, docking it at both sides at the same time. It was surprisingly easy to maneuver this and get it into position, although you can see I've sped things up a lot because I did go slow, but it was easy to do nonetheless. Is it just me, or is it cool that we build so big that we're hitting the top of the VAB? But this is not the one that we're supposed to be looking at next. Let's load up the right one. There we go, that's the correct launcher, and this one's even bigger, so we're going to expand the VAB to be able to look at that properly. Alright, there we go. I took the other 7.5 that had the new boosters on the bottom and just reused it by stacking a new payload up here, so there's nothing to see down there. But if we go up in there, check that out. See how that is oriented sideways? That's why I needed the extra space, because these modules go side to side here. Look how tightly that is fitting in there. And it's all crooked, bent-like. And you're probably wondering, how the heck did he get it to do that? Well, this is where my special craftsmanship had to come in handling the nodes of the different parts. I'll grab the fairing here, and you are going to see that there is a node just floating right there. Well, if this were real life, there would of course be some kind of extra structure in here, but that was just a little bit on the too complicated side for me, just to have a visual representation of something that sticks up here and hangs, the little things and, whatever, I don't know. So instead of doing that, I just added an extra node to a particular part, this one right here, that would allow me to stack a fairing underneath it. Now let me pull one of those out so I can show you what I'm talking about. Alright, over here I have my Odyssey Passage base. It says fix my stats because that one actually doesn't get used for anything. That was the one that I duplicated 3 times using some special configuration logic. I duplicated it once here, passage A, then B, and then once again to C. This is the part that you saw earlier that had the 2 plates and then the piece and the crew tube. This one is used up here on this end, and this is the one that has all the nodes that I can use in order to get the module right in there. Or wait, no. This one up here is the one, because this gets rotated. Here, let me see if I can rotate this a little bit. See, we rotate this around until it looks like that. And when it looks like that, then we end up with that node down there at the bottom. That is the stacking point for where the fairing goes on. I'll just attach this right here temporarily so that we can see what's going on. Okay, so then I grab a passage B, and you see that little node right there? Oh, it grabbed onto it just for a second. Well, if we flip this around, and then flip it around like that, it grabs on like that and creates an angle. Now the reason why I have it a separate piece is so that I can then use the node editor to move this in and out as necessary to get the exact right dimensions to account for the 2 docking ports that it needs to hook up to on the base module, on the rest of the Kopernicus. Another reason why it's separate parts is this crew module has a light in it, but you remember I said in a previous episode, those lights can't both be turned on at the same time unless they're separate parts, and so that was a second reason to have separate parts for that. Alright, so as you can see, the fairing goes on like that. We're pretending that that part isn't there for now. The fairing goes on like that at that bottom node right there. Also, there is an extra one right over here. That's where this stack decoupler thing goes on, so that would go on like that. So there's the basis of any of these modules. The last piece is whatever is going to go down through the middle. In this particular case, I grabbed one of these, shrunk it down one size, and stuck it right in the middle like that. And that gives me one of my modules that I can use on the outside. But I could also just as easily go over here to the Science tab and grab the Science module and place the Science module there, scale that up a little bit, and now we have a Science module, and we will be launching one that looks somewhat like this in the near future as well. So now if we go back here and take a look at what we've started, we can see that this, as I said, was the life support systems. So we have our greenhouse up there for just a little bit extra food production, but it'll be nowhere near enough to actually supply them for a long period of time. We have a hydrogen tank and oxygen, bunch of water stuff through here. The wastewater goes into here. Then we move down into this tank where we have the water purifier. The purifier pumps it into the water tank itself, and then the water tank can do the water splitting to turn it into oxygen, and some of that would run over here, and hydrogen, which would then be pumped over to there. The extra solar panel on the outside is to power the greenhouse right here. And if we move around to the back side, you can see what happens to the CO2 and the used up air. We store CO2 here, and then we have the pyrolyzer and the Sabatier with the methane tank in between them. Then as for the big module in the middle, that's where our food and waste go. And that's it. So now let's go finish getting this set up at the Kopernicus. Kessler has finished his analysis, and Valentina has run some status tests. She has been given the go-ahead by ground control to inflate the greenhouse, turn on the lights, and get things going. They're inside now, moving around through the base, checking all the systems internally, making sure everything functions. We'll also take a look here to make sure this other joint is nice and solid. I've turned on my RCS, and I'm using the gyroscope of the space tug to give that a wiggle and make sure that it docked, and it looked like it was solid, so that means the side that we docked on that's in line and opposite of the space tug is good, because that one we docked with, of course, and the one that's down below it also hooked up. So it looks like we won't need to do any rotation or extra shaking than that to get those to see each other and finish docking. We're running a test on the solar panel right now, but it looks like it's clipping through some parts, and that is definitely not intentional. I believe we're going to have to do an EVA to go out there and fix things, move some of those modules to a different location. So Valentina has donned her spacesuit, and she's on her way up there to give it a little look-see and find out what it's going to take and to see what sort of tools are going to be required. Now, in reality, what this probably means is that I will have to edit the model file to shift them out of the way, but we're gonna wave our hands in the air a little and say, oh, Valentina is out on an EVA and she's unbolting some of the bits and she's moving them to another location and rebolting them somewhere else. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. But it's all part of the story. It makes it interesting. So we'll just keep that solar panel deflated or defurled or all pulled back in for now. And we'll come back to that part later.
This is Motherboard to Raptor 1, come in, this is Motherboard, anomaly A7, ER tracking, bring up status in your region, do you read us? Reference image Station 2, come in, this is Motherboard. This is Motherboard to Raptor 1, do you read us? Station 3, Raptor 1, read us? In. Station 3, this is Motherboard, come in. Reroute communication green, check Station 4, come in, this is Motherboard. Station 4, do you read us? Commander, still no word from Raptor 1. This is operations to ground Dish 1. Please check your connections over there. Just keep trying. I'll be in operations if you need me. Listen up, Kermans. I want to know why we can't contact Kamalak and the Raptor. It's been 10 days. We should have heard something by now. I think we should tell him. Tell me what? We didn't want to say until we were certain. Just tell me. Sir, we believe the Raptor has slipped into another wormhole. The engine modification instructions we sent them may have been incomplete. They were what?
And with that, we return to Valentina at the Kopernicus, orbiting currently around the Kerbin that we call home for now. She has one more thing to do. We're heading over to it now. There is a strut on the end of this beam. That's the whole reason why these beams exist, is to stick out enough for the strut to be on the end of them. She has to EVA her way over there and grab onto it, click link, and take it up to the new module where she will hook it together, increasing the structural stability of this so that when we make our trip to Duna, it's not going to be flip-flopping all over the place. Then she heads back inside to start up all of the new life support systems. Since we don't have a full complement of crew yet, we don't need to worry about the fact that that one solar panel isn't out. And beside, we have plenty of redundant solar power because that's what Bill would have wanted. Let's take a look at this thing up close. We only have 3 more modules to dock to it and a little bit more EVA construction. And the crew needs to come up, and then we'll be done and ready to head to Duna. Well, at least with this one, the Kopernicus is not going alone. We are sending a fleet of ships. We'll have some automated landers that will go well ahead of our actual mission, because there's a lot of testing still to do before we can send our Kerbals there and hope to get them back safely. So the next module that I would like to build is a science module for the Kopernicus, but I have not actually created it yet. So for a change, I figured that what I would do is build it right now in the VAB. It's going to start out with that one that we showed earlier that has all the different nodes on it, and I need to put a docking port on the end of it there. We also need the one that goes down the other side and a docking port that will go on that. So this one right here, and it gets flipped around that way and placed right on that node. There we go, that goes right on there. And we'll take another one of those docking ports and rotate that around and put that over on that side. Now this is the science module, so we're going to get science and put it right here, flip that around, make that a bit bigger, center that right in there. Actually, we're not going to center it. We're going to rotate this a little bit. Let's see here, put that, let's see, I want to get it, there we go. I want to rotate it so that the antennas and stuff like that will come out like this and stick out on that side. Let's try extending those out to see what they look like. Alright, so that one I think we want on the inside, and that one we want on the outside. So let's flip this around. I was going to throw an extra battery on the bottom of it as a backup battery source. I figured the science facility is going to want to back up all of its data with a battery backup, just in case something goes wrong. It will be protected. So we can put one about that size, or we could shrink it down just a little bit more, show a little bit more of the bottom. I'm not sure which way I want to go with it. Go like that. That one sort of fits on there. That's not so bad. I'm going to need a stack separator to place right there, and a docking port. Well, let me just grab one of these since I already have it available, and that'll go right on that. And that's how we'll maneuver it around with the space tug. I was also going to put a reverse dish on there. Let's say one of these somewhere on the outside. And for the time being, let's grab this and rotate it to make it look like it's going to be on the Odyssey or on the Kopernicus. And then we'll be able to see where we want to place that. So this is what it's sort of going to look like when it's docked up. And if we place a dish on here, let's say this is going to be a dish that's going to point back toward Kerbin for our long-range communications in transit. So perhaps something like that. Or we could put it there. Make sure that we have enough space. So let's rotate this back the way it's supposed to be. Locate a large fairing right there. Increase that to 7.5. And put that on there. Now, we'll take this whole thing and rotate it to make it so that the rocket will be able to fit underneath. And there. Now it's straight up and down. Oh, that's going to be fine because it's not in the poking out toward the fairing at all. Let's bring all of this stuff in. Close science, back up again. And we just need to see, that looks like it's going to be fine right there. We need to see if that is going to in fact be fine. So we'll make a 7.5, that, and look at that. Fits in there perfectly. Alright, that is what we're going to use for the next module. Now all we need is the launcher. So up we go. All the way up here, go into there, and grab our 7.5 meter booster, attach it to the bottom, and we are just about good to go. Increase the size of the VAB and take a look at it. Let's see if the bottom is clipping with the ground. It usually is. It is just a little bit. We'll lift that back up to about there, and now we are looking pretty good. This is just about ready. We'll call this one the Kopernicus Science. I still have to check my staging on it, but we might be ready to go. Well, maybe one more thing. I don't really like the look of that texture right there, so maybe we'll put a little cap on it, and it'll look a little bit better like that, I think. Okay, now we're done. Let's close that back up again and get ready to launch it.
Oh my, another one too heavy for the launch pad. This has happened to me a couple times now with these big ones. I guess we have something to fix next time. Until then, I will see you later, Kerbinauts.